Okay, I made it through the first half of this reacting to Rich. He's taking apart the interview I did with Basia. So I'm going to finish up and listen to it and see what they got to say. But notice Kathy won't stop talking, and Rich has got to take a leak. He has to jump in.
Using a lot of cocaine. Drake would have been underweight at birth. He'd have been addicted to the shit. He would have been a sickly baby. That wasn't the case.
They would have detected it. They would have detected that in the hospital because they were screaming.
Right, they sure would have detected that had they tested. But back in the 90s, they probably didn't do those tests. Another thing that we can consider is that they've always blamed Darren for doing so much cocaine. The same would happen as far as Drake if the father was in heavy use of cocaine. It would be in his system, Rich.
They were screaming for that.
I know they do that now. I am not 110% sure if they did that in 96. They may have.
I'm pretty sure they did.
They do it now because there are so many people getting state aid, government aid, that now if they test you and find out you've got drugs or marijuana or anything in your system, they can remove your assistance. Some states remove your assistance and they bring CPS in.
Because my kids were about 10 years old when I remember the legislation passing, because I knew several.
She won't shut up.
I have to take a quick restroom break, but please continue. I'll be right back. Please continue.
Okay, we got a little more Kamala Harris going on here. So she reminds me of. You ask her a question and she goes on, like she knows every damn thing.
I think from my memory, yes, that was going on. My kids were about 10 years old when I had a friend who was a foster mom that had been called in for an emergency. The hospital had done the basic screening on the newborn, and it was addicted. And they said you would have never thought the mother to have been an addict, other than that she fit the physical description because of her position in the community and wealth. That she could, that you wouldn't think that someone that was addicted would be that successful. But she fostered a addicted baby.
Kathy's speechless right now.
Okay,
I'm finding a lot of Barbara's interview to also be information that was that I think she learned after the conviction, and is not stuff she had any first-hand knowledge of.
Yeah. Well, let's see what else gets said here.
She was worried about the sex toys.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, oh my God, I said, all this happened and you worry about that?
Yeah, I see your testimony. I'm looking at your testimony right here. And that's what it said. Yeah, the sex toys. And do you think that she wanted you to also grab some of the illegal substance that was in that house too, the cocaine?
No,
Okay.
she just worried about them finding that.
So if Darlie knew that there was cocaine in the house and she had been using the cocaine or crushed pills, either one, and she knew that police investigators were going to be going in there, and if they were doing all this cocaine with Basia Jovell, how come Darlie?
See, there you go again with those two words. All this. You did that last time. You're explaining the cocaine use. All this. You had to maximize that. Basia only remembers doing cocaine with Darlie twice. Not all this. Basia never said, she did all this cocaine with me. That's what you're saying. You have to maximize in order to be a proper supporter.
Darlie didn't tell, even Basia said she didn't say anything about the cocaine or the plate or the straw, the razor blade.
Well, there's another time that I asked her, and she remembered, yes. It's been a long time, so she said, then the next interview, she remembers, yes, she wanted me to get that too.
Oh my God, Basia, you got to go over there and get that out of the way. We're going to get in trouble. That wasn't said. Could it be that Darlie didn't even know that was up there? Something to think about, because that's going to get found with what happened and had occurred in that house. Just something to think about.
Mm-hmm. I wonder why she would worry about that. Who cares?
I know, but think about it.
All right, well, let's stop again. Again, Darlie's a sensitive person, a very compassionate person. I know her well personally. And I could see Darlie getting embarrassed about that. I really can.
Well, I'm glad that Darlie's memory was starting to come back to her in the hospital bed. And she was starting to remember things clearly, like sex toys. She was starting to, her fogginess went away when it came to those sex toys. She couldn't remember a whole lot of stuff about the attack, but she sure remembered those sex toys. In her confused state, because she was so drugged up, the police shouldn't even have questioned her, right? But she remembered those sex toys. Those were a priority to her. That was a priority. I got to get somebody to get them. But there's another time that I asked her, was she worried about the cocaine up there too? And Basia said yes.
With horrible accusations toward Darlie about having threesomes with neighbors and all kinds of stuff. I mean, she was appalled by some of the stuff she had heard.
Well, she never said that she had threesomes with the neighbors. She said that Darlie asked Tammy if she would be interested in that, and Tammy just got up and walked away. And that was a thing back in the 90s. It's no big deal, really. She didn't say threesomes. See how you got to add on to that? Threesomes with the neighbors. No, that's not what she said, Rich.
That is absolutely disgusting. I've never done anything like that. Never even asked anybody anything like that. But there's going to be.
This is the same woman who told you that she passed out on a porch and left a pile of blood there. Right? This is the same person who told you she's never touched cocaine. Right?
There'll be some stuff being said about that here shortly.
Well, Rich, look at Melania Trump got upset that the FBI went through her underwear drawer. I mean, just looking at a woman's underwear was embarrassing enough for Melania Trump to throw a fit about it and say, hey, they didn't need to be doing that. I understand they.
Right.
Trump wasn't embarrassed that they were looking at her underwear. He didn't want them looking at her underwear. That's a man thing, not a woman thing. He didn't want them looking at his wife's private underwear.
Right.
And who knows what they found in her underwear drawer that embarrassed her. Just a stranger looking through her underwear drawer embarrassed of our former and now first lady.
Yeah, those bastards. Those damn cops trying to solve this crime, find out who killed my kids. Sons of bitches.
So I don't think being worried about sex toys would be unusual for a person who doesn't want their sexuality put out there. or strangers looking at things that they ought.
I don't know why she would be embarrassed. You keep saying this other person would be embarrassed about their sex toys being found, but did that person this hypothetical that you're bringing up, did they just have two kids killed downstairs?
That would normally be private. Yes, that would be embarrassing to people.
Right.
So yes. Well, as far as why should she care? Because I can see the creator there. Why he wouldn't understand? He's a man.
Well, that's just it.
To a woman, there's things you just don't do, and things you don't want ever out in the public. It's the privacy and the intimacy of your.
Like you killed your kids. Why would she be embarrassed of that? She wasn't too shy and embarrassed to be at La Bar pregnant, grinding up on a male stripper in front of everybody. She wasn't embarrassed of that, was she?
Yeah, that's what I was going to actually say, because as a man, I wouldn't care about that either. I mean, I'm not here stating that me and Bonnie have a huge collection of porn and toys. We don't need it. But if we did, I wouldn't care if they found something like that. Most
Okay. Rich made a key thing. 4 words he said. We don't need it. All right? So she has all these sex toys. They were in different colors, different shapes. 3 that I know of that they did find. One of them she called Papa Smurf. Okay, let me give you an example. In my life, my wife was married for 7 years to someone before me. And one of the reasons that their relationship was sexual performance on his part. Lacking. It was very lacking, she said. Not his fault, it's just what it was. So she had a bag of sex toys. She had bullets and pumps and glass things and all that stuff. Because she wasn't satisfied sexually. And since she's been with me, we've never had any of those things. We don't need it. Darlie must have needed it.
couples have stuff like that. So
well, the female partner might be more upset about it, because it's
I agree with you.
We don't want to even share a bathroom with a man. Okay.
That's ridiculous. But when she was confronted about the sex toys, someone said, "Why the sex toys?" Darlie said, "I won't apologize for loving my husband." I'm sorry, but those sex toys were not designed to pleasure a man. I won't apologize for loving my husband. I had all these sex toys because I love my husband. I don't know. I think you might have had all the sex toys because you loved yourself a lot. Frequently. Ordering batteries off of QVC.
It's not embarrassing to men. It's not embarrassing to y'all, but it is to women. It's we're taught a more repressed sexuality than men are.
Yeah, I mean, Bonnie's not on the show with us today, but I'm sure she would agree with you. Bonnie gets embarrassed real easy like that. And you got to remember that I think Bonnie and Darlie are actually closer friends than me and Darlie are, because they just talk and relate well. And they're actually pretty good friends, Darlie and Bonnie as well. Okay.
That's what I told her. I said, why are you even worried about all that?
Yeah.
I said, the babies are dead. You almost got killed. And, and then it came, to where she just kind of stopped talking and started looking
Now,
at me.
here's the thing. If Darlie had done this, if Darlie had murdered Devin and Damon and did all this horrible stuff to herself, stabbed herself, slit her throat, bruised her hands all up, and different various things, I don't think and if Darlie did it, I don't think she'd be worried too much about them toys. I think she'd be worrying about anything that would be in that house that would be incriminating, showing her guilt. She'd be wanting to get that shit out of the house, not female sex toys. So just
Yeah,
something
get the bread knife, get my journal.
Get the whole knife block out, or get the whole knife block out. Just stuff like that. Yeah, shit.
Yeah. Get the journal, get the knife block, get all that stuff. All right. Darlie was trying to make people think she didn't kill her kids. All right. So she's not going to tell somebody, get my journal, get the knife block. She's trying to make people think she didn't kill her kids. The sex toys was just one of her things that she didn't want them to know about. It was important to her to get those out of there. She wouldn't have said, oh my God, get my journal. She probably didn't even think they'd ever use her journal on her. She didn't think they'd find the fiber on the knife. Now get all that stuff for me. That way you'll know that I'm guilty because I asked you to get all this stuff for me. And common sense, y'all.
Been guilty. I'm sorry, Kathy. I kind of interrupted you. Was there something you wanted to say as well?
No, but she would have had her removing evidence or pointing out staging.
Right.
Hey, those rags are wet. Hey, that table is overturned. Hey, this is.
She never needed to point out the staging, okay? She didn't need to. It spoke for itself, the staging. Where was all this fighting that took place? How did that table get flipped over? Just think about it. Because she was frightening, not fighting.
She would be using Barbara to which a lot of stagers have. They've used others to try and substantiate their staging.
Well, she did. Because in another interview after this, Darlie was back in Lou Sterrett. Basia was in on a charge for passing out pills at the same time. Basia was in the room right next to Darlie. Darlie called the media in. There was a media thing there were several of them done with her while she was at Lou Sterrett. And according to Basia, she wanted Basia to lie. She did want to use Basia for the staging.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. I totally agree.
Yeah.
And her eyes turned back to that mellow, pretty eyes, kind of relaxed.
Yeah.
And that's why I have a problem with this, because I was standing up and she says, Basia, do you think I did this?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And I said, what? And I sat down on, I think that's how she said it, but I don't know because I was so distressed. And I mean, I was going out of my mind.
Right.
And here Basia is honest. She says she thinks that she can remember Darlie asking her, do you think I did this? But she said she's not 100% sure of that because she was confused, that she was upset. I'm watching Rich's eyeballs here right now. I wonder what he's got to say about this.
So I don't know if she said that or I just heard that in my head.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so basically, Bosch is a little bit uncertain how that all went down, that little couple lines there on the transcript in the hospital. From what I've seen with Darlie, she does have a lot of emotion when she's talking in her face and eyes. I've seen it. I know. I've seen Darlie mad. I've seen her cry. I've seen her laugh until she cried. She has a lot of emotion in her face when she talks. Now, Annie, I don't know how she was as a teenager, but and maybe you could fill me in on that, but I mean, when she's talking, her eyes do change up. I've seen this. And when she's mad, her eyes are about as big as golf balls when she's mad.
Okay, so you're confirming that you saw the same thing that Basia is telling us that she saw. You're confirming that Basia is correct in this, right?
Okay. Now she's talking about
We all have.
No, wait a minute.
We all
She's
have
talking-
our
she's
tales.
talking about Darlie having scary, angry eyes. F&A, she has scary, angry.
I don't think that she said scary, angry eyes. I'm looking. Okay, she did say that. My bad. That's why I said stop.
Angry eyes. Both of her boys just got butchered, and she damn near died. Of course, she has angry, scary eyes. You know.
Well, to me, too, this is as far as Darlie was totally unaware that she and Darren would be investigated at all until I told her over the phone after the boy's funeral.
Oh, God. She didn't know that they were going to be investigated, right? She didn't know. How did she know they were going to go get her sex toys then? They would only take her sex toys if they were investigating them.
I mean, I told her to get a lawyer, and I said, well, you know they're investigating.
Yeah. Kathy told her everything. Kathy's the one that got her to make Basia the maid of honor, and Kathy told her this, and Kathy told her that. Well, she must not have gave a damn about what you was telling her, Kathy, because she didn't leave you shit. She didn't think enough of you to leave anything to you in her will. Not a damn thing. She left some money to her friends who she loved a lot. 10,000 apiece, Kathy. You didn't get shit. Who was on her mind when she was wanting to leave things after she left this world? Who was on Darlie's mind? Basia was, and Tammy was, but Kathy wasn't. I guess she thought a little more of them than she did you, Kathy.
People. And she goes, yes. And I said, do you know who the first two people are that they have already that they're stuck on investigating right now? And she goes, do you know who they are? And I said, yes. And she said, who? And I said, you and Darren. The parents are always the first. They will not even start looking for other people until they clear you. And she said, oh, I'm not. And I said, that's why you need a lawyer to move the investigation forward. And I said, they'll keep pushing a lawyer will for investigation. And I told her the cops are not your friends right now. Right now, they're going to try, and the easiest thing to do will be to pin this on you or Darren. And
Yeah, well, good. Thank God she had Kathy as a good, trusted friend. Someone that she counted on. Someone that she took advice from. Someone that was there the whole time. Someone that Darlie cared about enough to leave her something in her will. I'm glad she had Kathy.
said, because you were the only adult known to be in the house at that time. And I said, proving someone else was there with completely unknown, someone you don't know, is going to be even harder. And I said, they're going to work the case that way, which is
Rich, if you ever go see Darlie again, which I don't think you will, something tells me you're not going to see her again, ever. Ask her. Ask her if she had that conversation with Kathy. See what she says.
standard operating procedure for any person murdered in a home. I mean, they, believe it or not, in the Kohlberg case, the witness that was there that slept through everything and got up was the first suspect. And they thoroughly investigated that person before they started looking for. They had to, and they found evidence like the knife sheath and that kind of stuff from in that pointed.
Oh my gosh, Kamala Harris's. If there would have been someone else around that house that wasn't supposed to be there that they knew about, they would have investigated that person. But there's just no person available for them to investigate because they left no evidence of themselves. None. Right?
To someone, was evidence in the case, but until they cleared all the people in the house, they didn't even look for an unknown intruder. So she was totally shocked. She was like, "Who? She had no idea that she and Darren would be the first suspects or be investigated.
Yeah,
so
Darren
she wasn't thinking, yes, they didn't need lawyers. And I said, you need them to move the case forward and to protect yourselves from this first phase of investigation. I said, after that, you may just keep them on retainer but you.
Well, Kathy, Darlie didn't take your advice. She must have thought what you said didn't mean anything. Why listen to you? Because she didn't get a fucking lawyer till after she was convicted. So you must have been talking to a wall. She thought she could talk her way out of this.
You need them. You need legal advice now. You've done too many interviews, is what I've told her, with the police. Because the police will catch you up on common phrases that you may use, like she's saying, "Man, I ran to here and I ran to." Well, she didn't mean she was taken off by a sprinter. She just meant, she went there and she went there quickly.
How do you know what she meant?
Because, to some people, like if I'm out doing errands and chores and someone said, "Where's your wife?" "Oh, she's out running around." Well, to them, that could mean I'm out being a loose woman instead of taking care of errands. So it's all just expressions and phrases that we use in everyday life that a lawyer will help, will construct a statement.
Well,
for the police, and then if they want to question you about certain
he
details,
wishes she'd shut
they
up.
have to go to your lawyer, like they would have had to have asked her about if they'd wanted information about the sink, if she'd had.
Let me give you an example of body language that I hone in on. I can tell that Rich really wants to talk, but he's waiting on her to get done. They were screaming and talking over each other a minute ago. But what Rich is doing is looking away and covering his mouth, covering the bottom part of his mouth with his hand. Because he doesn't want to say, "Shut the fuck up and let me talk."
Well, they never asked. They never asked about the sink. I forgot that I had wet towels. I forgot that I had done this or that.
See how he's keeping his mouth covered up with his hand? That's him trying to keep what he's wanting to say out of he doesn't want to be snap at Kathy for talking too much.
It was such a hectic. I'm not worried about what I was doing. I was worried about getting an ambulance there.
Yeah.
So, it can show the progression of an investigation. In fact, most people say don't talk to the police even if you know something about a crime without a lawyer present. Because if you know something about a crime, then they're going to investigate you. And you need a lawyer to protect you when you're talking to the police. Because the police are very...
Well, again, she didn't listen to what the fuck you had to say, Kathy. It must not have been that important to her.
Yes. They said, especially in traffic stops, never admit guilt, be polite, give them your license, registration, whatever.
Shut up.
Obey their orders, And if they want more than that, then you
There goes Rich covering his mouth again.
just tell them that you would like a lawyer.
Yeah.
For any questions beyond that, just say.
See, he started to talk a second ago. He took that breath to talk, and then she started talking again. Look at that look on his face. Covering his mouth, looking downward, eyebrows close. He does not like being interrupted. He doesn't like it when his guests ramble. He can't hide that. That's body language.
I don't answer questions beyond my name and my identity and things like that without the presence of an attorney.
Yeah,
and you can,
And she just did it to him again. He was starting to talk again, and she kept on. You just look at that look on his face. She silenced him.
Yeah,
that is within my rights.
And again.
So, yeah.
And you can say that politely to an officer, and at that time they would say, "Oh, okay." They might continue to say, "I would need." You just say, "I need a lawyer to tell you where I was coming from and where I'm going to at this time of night."
Look at it. He's touching his face. He's uncomfortable with her. He's slightly perturbed by her. Keep talking.
Here's if I broke any laws, I'm willing to accept any traffic tickets. All my life, working on my vehicle. I mean, I don't know why you pulled me over, but I'm willing to cooperate. And they can't really. I mean, there's nothing condemning about that. You might even be able to beat your ticket.
Right. Okay, moving forward. We are already over an hour, and we only got like just shy of.
That's his way of saying. He said, "Okay, moving forward." That's his way of saying you're talking too much. We've only got a little bit of time. Shut the fuck up. He does it in a nice way. Rich does things in a nice way.
6 minutes in on this hour video, but I know I had a pretty long beginning to the podcast where I was talking about things. So if you got the time, we'll go a little bit further, and then we'll do a part 2 and probably a 3 and a 4. And that's fine. That's great. But we just want to get through this and analyze it carefully. Okay.
I know that
it's very weird, but I sit down and her eyes turn right back to this mysterious, scary, but then yet angry eyes.
Yeah. Well, again, I know Darlie does that stuff with her eyes. I know she does. I've seen it.
So thanks for confirming that Basia notices the same things that you do in Darlie's eyes. When she says scary, angry eyes, she I don't think she means the evil, killing person when she says that. You can have scared, angry eyes laying in Darlie's position if you were guilty or if you're innocent. Scared, angry eyes are appropriate. I wonder what Rich has got to say.
Very she tells a lot of what she has to say with her eyes, in my opinion. But you also got to take a look at what just happened. Even Basia Jovell admits she had a complete nervous breakdown after these boys were murdered. And on another interview, she states that she had to go through 10 years of therapy. And I believe that's possible.
Yeah, and you guys used that therapy against her. You said she was crazy, in and out of mental hospitals, blah, 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 blah. And that she had drug problems. Well, Basia contends to me that some of the reason for her drug problem is what she dealt with, losing Devin and Damon. But the other was she had a physical problem. Her back was tore up. And it's really easy to depend on these pain pills. Anybody that's ever had it, it's really easy to get trapped into the opioid addiction. I'm telling you, I came close to it. My doctor was giving them to me 90 days on, 90 days off. Then he kept wanting to, he kept saying, do you need more? And I kept, oh yeah, of course, because you don't feel anything. Nothing. You just feel great. And it's really easy to get hooked up on that. So I had to, when I got to the point where I was craving them, I had to tell my doctor that I didn't want them again. And it was hard to do, to be honest with you.
Because I do believe that Basia did love those little boys. But here's the point I want to make. What do you think it did to Darlie? Those were her children, plus the attack she had to deal with. You think she's thinking clearly and thinking straight? Probably.
She's thinking enough for her to go get those sex toys. That was on her mind. It's because it's all about appearances. Right?
Hopefully no more than Basia was, if not worse, due to the circumstances. Something to think about. Put yourself in her shoes for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know
when
how.
Darren walked in, she said, he whispered, we have it over her. And he actually grabbed her by her arms, too.
Yeah.
Okay, according to Darlie, that never transpired.
According to Darlie, she passed out on the porch and left a puddle of blood there, Rich. I'm going to keep going back to that because she told you that. And you said it on your podcast if you go back. Oh, Darlie told me that blood, that was because she passed out on the porch. That's a lie, Rich. And you know it. You keep saying if you catch Darlie in a lie, you have never caught her in a lie. That's a lie. And you know it.
I asked her about it. I said, when Darren come back in the room and whispered in your ear, what did he say to you? And she said, I
was saying, I'm willing to bet. She said, I don't remember. And here he goes. Because she said that a lot on the stand. So did Darren.
I don't remember that anything like that happening. So again, who's lying, people?
Just because Darlie says she doesn't remember doesn't mean Bosch is lying. Look at your smug look on your face, Rich. Look how many times Darlie said she didn't remember on the stand. Darlie has a memory problem. And you guys say, well, she didn't remember this because she was in shock. She didn't remember that because she was in shock. Yeah, who's lying? Yeah, who is lying, Rich? Remember, she passed out on the porch. Told you that to your face.
Is it Darlie? Is it Basia? One of them are. And like I said, I haven't been able to catch Darlie in any lies yet.
Again, I keep going on. I keep telling him about this. He knows she lied. That she passed out on the porch and left blood there. And his only response was, well, I'm just telling you what she told me. But you can look at the transcripts and read, and you can tell Darlie did not pass out on the porch on the ground and leave blood there. She did not. But she told him he did. She did. He won't admit to that.
I do, I'll tell you.
That's the second.
Okay, well, you need to tell us then. Go read all the different testimony about where Darlie was taken to the porch. All the different people that were standing around while she was taken to the porch, including Karen and Terry. She did not pass out on that porch. She was escorted to the porch. That means whoever escorted her would have saw her fall out and pass out. And so would the people that brought the stretcher. So would Darren. She did not pass out on the porch. She lied to you. Now, I'd like to see you address that.
Time I've heard that.
He just hovered over her. He grabs her by the arms and started whispering. And she goes, "Oh, I didn't tell her anything. I just told her about the toys."
That's the second time that she said that same exact way. She told me that the same way 10 years ago. Almost word for word. Rich is pissed about it. You see, he was shaking his head a little bit. He don't like it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Darren. I asked Darlie, and I don't remember if I asked Mr. St. John to ask her this or not. I may have. I don't recall because I sent him a list. I'd have to look. But
Rich did not send me a list. He asked me, ask her this, ask her that, but he did not send me an itemized list. He asked me a couple things to ask her.
I had asked Darlie about that. She said she can't recall anything like that ever happening. I also asked Darlie if it has Darren in any way over the years gotten physical with you. Have you smacked you, hit you, anything? And she said no.
Yeah, I mean, him taking her by the arms doesn't mean he was being physical with her. It just means he probably just wanted to get close down to her. That doesn't mean he was just grabbing her arms and shaking her, Rich.
And so, did this stuff happen? Did he grab her by the arms, especially after being severely injured? I don't know.
Well, it depends on how you're looking at the word grab. It's wordplay. You got to explain to me this. What reason does Basia have to lie? Now, what reason does Darlie have to lie? Darlie's life depends on her lying.
I would think that especially on her right arm, unless she grabbed her left arm, which I'm sure hurt as well. I'm pretty sure Darlie would have remembered something like that. And I don't think she...
Yeah, Darlie's memory would get really good. Even though she was too confused to speak to the police, she was on these drugs. They shouldn't have interviewed her after, surgery. She was still loopy. Too convenient, Rich. Too convenient, buddy.
Would have been hard up to tell me about it, because there are things I am going to tell you folks that Darlie claimed that happened that actually kind of makes her look bad, but you got to understand the reasoning behind it. And I'll be telling you about it here shortly, because she said I could share this stuff. So we'll get to it when we get to it.
Rich, if she's innocent, she wouldn't have a problem with you sharing anything. Anything. She'd be begging you to share shit. But she's selective on what she wants you to share. Does that mean anything to you, buddy?
Yeah, I remember you said that. And Darren didn't want you to...
As a matter of fact, I'm just going to do it right now, since we're talking about the issue of possible violence here. Darlie said there was one time she went into Tesneek, and this is shortly before the murders. There was no doubt that at that time that Darlie had stressors going on. Okay, that she had stressors going on. It's clear from her journal. It's clear even by the stuff that she had told me, and she even admitted that it was. I asked her why. Why were these stressors going on? I said, were you depressed? She said, no, I wasn't depressed. She said, but I was extreme.
She said, no, I wasn't depressed. But her journal says something different, Rich. 3 weeks before the murder, you could tell she was depressed. life has been so hard for such a long time now. I feel like people expect too much from me. Yes, she was depressed.
Worried about things that was going on with Darren and our money, the business. She said things just weren't going right. And she said, one of the biggest things that really got on her nerves is that Darren used to love to have a bunch of play toys and never took care of them and never came up with them. And she goes, she's got stuff that needed fixed around the house. He wouldn't do it. That's why the gate was being held together by a clothes hanger, because she kept on Darren about, you need to get that fixed. It's not good for it to be like that. I don't want it that way. Please fix it. You keep saying you're going to do it, and you want to play with play toys instead of doing what's serious. Yeah, that stuff used to pee Darlie off something terrible. She told me that. She also said,
yeah, we know about peeing Darlie off something terrible. And what could she take from Darren that would hurt him the most? Business wasn't good. She wasn't able to shop. She had to stay at home.
that one time at Tessie, she went in there and they ended up getting in an argument over different various things that were going on with the business, how the business was going downhill. Darlie was questioning Darren about a lot of different things that she was suspect that was going on that he was doing. And Darren had made some kind of smart ass remark to Darlie. And Darlie whipped the Rolodex at his face. Hit him with it too. She said at that point, Darren pulled out
Yeah, Basia knows about that Rolodex thing.
his gun and put it right in her face. And Darlie said, Darren, we both know you're not going to do anything with that. So, I mean, she's admitted to this stuff. She's admitted to these things going on.
Rich, she's not admitting anything. She wants to make Darren look like he's violent to you. But I will say this. Basia did make a comment about Darren waving the gun around. She also knows about the Rolodex getting thrown. Basia didn't say anything about a gun coming out at Technique. She did not say anything about that. She said when Darren started waving that gun around, said, if you say anything about Darlie, you better watch your back. She said that's when she stopped going around him.
And I'm pretty sure that gun ordeal happened a different time at the house as well.
There's another gun ordeal where she was threatening to leave him, and he put the gun to his own head. According to Don Davis, the author. But see, I don't know where they would get that from because nobody was in the room with them two when that happened. So I don't know where I don't know how much credibility to give it.
So yeah, there were stressors going on. There was problems in the marriage. There was problems with money. There was evidently problems with a bunch of play toys, and Darren wasn't doing the things that.
But they want us to believe they had a wonderful marriage, Rich. That's what they kept telling the courts.
Was important, like how he was leaving his Jaguar at a car lot. The guy calls Darlie up, cussing her out, yelling, screaming, swearing, and using some very serious profanity toward her. That's what she was so angry about when on June 5th in late afternoon when.
So you're saying that's the straw that broke the camel's back? Her getting cussed out because Darren wasn't taking care of his toys? That was the thing that set her over? Is that what you're saying, Rich? Because there were a lot of different stressors. But apparently that one is the one that set her off. The guy who we don't know called to cuss at Darlie about his car. That motherfucker Darren. sick of this shit with Darren.
Darren had brought Basia to the house after work as they got done working at Tesnik, and then Basia and Helena were going to go home. Helena was in a big hurry to get out of there because she knew there was going to be an argument because Darlie was really PO'd by the stuff that this guy was saying to her. And she told me the words he was using. I'm not going to use them here, but they're very, very strong, very insulting. And
well, she also told you she passed out on the porch. I'm going to keep going back to that. Because you kind of look like, and no offense, but you kind of look like a damn fool spitting that out. And Darlie told me she passed out on that porch. That's why the blood was there. Had you read the testimony, had you known this case, you would know that that's not even possible, Rich. Not possible at all. Because of all the other people that were out there, including Darren. Darren talked to her while she was on the stretcher. Darren was right there.
Darlie don't take that stuff well because she doesn't talk to people like that. And she doesn't want to be talked to like that. So, yeah, she was mad. And she even admitted she was mad about it. So, moving forward here.
You telling her talking to you at all, did he?
Right.
I think that
there's Mama Darlie when I went in first time. I get to see her finally.
mm-hmm.
You know, and she was so scared.
Yeah.
She was biting her nails, and you know, and I told her that a friend of mine, she works in a police station and doing a little stalker game for kids.
Yeah.
He said that they say that they can find nothing other than points to her.
Yeah.
And she's going to be arrested. And the next thing we know, she is.
Now, there's something I want to point out. She's saying that, you know, Darlie was scared. She's biting her nails. So, like, Darlie was a nail biter. She was a nail biter. Darlie Key even verified that to me. I talked to Darlie in prison on it. And anytime I visited Darlie, and you got to remember, these are 4-hour visitations. I've never seen her bite her nails in there. Maybe Bonnie has. I never seen that.
Oh, Rich, she has no reason to be nervous when you're there. She's relaxed. She's feeding you information that she knows you're going to tell the public. She's giving you little stuff. She might even tell you not to say something because she hopes you do. She has no reason to be biting her nails when you're sitting there. But if someone's questioning her about killing her kids, she's got every reason to bite her fingers damn near off.
But if both of your children were just murdered and you were critically injured, I think just about anybody would be biting their fingernails after that, especially when they didn't succeed in killing Darlie.
Especially when people are giving her questions that she doesn't, that makes it look like they're accusing her. I'd be biting my nails too if I was her.
Of course, she's going to be scared and worried and petrified, to say the least.
Yeah, they honed in on her right away because she kept changing her stories. Within the second day, that
You see Rich shaking his head. Now he's got his ear. He's listening.
that when they gave the house back to her and she went in and she saw that the sink was gone, she changed her story.
Yeah, and what Brian's referring to is about wetting towels. Darlie said she was wetting towels and going back and forth. I talked with Darlie. I verified that story with her. She said it was true. And I asked Darlie. I asked her point blank. I said, you know, Darlie, you look at your police reports, and you know they're a little bit different from one another. And I said,
a little bit different. Let's minimize. They do the maximize, you know, like all this cocaine. Now they do the minimizing.
you know, and you said later about wetting the towels. You didn't say that initially. Darlie made some very good points to me about this. She said, first of all, on the police reports, she said, I was rushing to get through that second one because they were doing the showing of my boys.
She was in a hurry, so she didn't tell the truth. And the thing of it is the Rowlett Police Department and Rest Haven are like right with a block away from each other. I didn't realize how close they were until I went down there to see it.
And she said they made her considerably late to the showing of her boys because they wouldn't let her go. Because
Well, did she ask to go? Because all she had to do, if she really wanted to get over there, is say, okay, I can give you a statement later on. Right now, I have this. If you're going to arrest me, arrest me. Otherwise, I'm going to see my boy's funeral, and then we can talk after this. She did not do that.
she was doing a written statement. So she said she's just trying to write through it real quick so she could get to the viewing of Devin and
Okay, so she wrote through that real quick. She wrote down detailed stuff, through that, but she forgot to write down that she was getting towels. Darren forgot that too in his first statement. Yeah, he forgot all about the towels. He must have been in a hurry too. Yeah. She remembered all those details in that first written statement. But she was in such a hurry she didn't remember bringing towels. I think it's because as soon as she went in that house and went around the corner and saw that fucking sink was gone, that she knew she better come up with a reason why she was over there. She didn't tell the police that she was over there either. Wetting towels. She didn't tell them that. She didn't tell them that, and she didn't write that down. She didn't think she would know. She wanted to avoid the whole sink thing if she could, because that's where she cut her throat at.
Damon at the funeral home. And as far as the sink is concerned, I could totally see how that is possible. Okay, I've been in a terrifying situation, not to the severity of Darlie's, but close, that you just walk into. You're not thinking right. Your head's not thinking straight. You think Darlie gave one rat's ass about thinking of every single move that she made when she's got blood squirting out of her throat and stabbed to the bone on her right arm?
He dropped his knife. I picked it up. We could have gotten the fingerprints, maybe. She was worried about them fingerprints. That's for sure, Rich.
To the chest. Her hands.
And also, it's not logical to a innocent person. Once she picks up the phone and calls 911 and summons Darren, she's no longer alone. Okay?
Right.
The crime is over. So, yeah, that's where she pretty much ends her story. They didn't ask her anything about that. But if she was guilty and she'd run this vacuum cleaner through the blood, then she's going to want to account for that in her story. She's going to talk about the kitchen, and she's going to talk about the sink, and she's going to talk about these things. Once again, just like you've always said, she stages, but she never takes the stage. That is.
They keep saying that she never used the staging, right? What she didn't do is point out the staging. All right. The staging spoke for itself. She didn't need to say, hey, this table's flipped over, because it was flipped over. She didn't need to say, hey, this plant fell, because they can obviously see that. She didn't need to say, hey, there's a screen cut. But she did lead them to the garage, because she knew they would see this screen cut. She didn't need to keep talking about it.
That is an indication that wasn't staging. And
Right.
It's not a changing of her story, it's an addition. That's why they say anytime you've been, even.
It's an addition, right? Okay. because she didn't think that they were going to go over to the sink and investigate it that well, find out that she cut her neck there. So now it's an addition.
Even on every friggin' TV show, after interviewing a witness or interviewing somebody, even go in their house, they give them a card. If you think of anything else, give me a call.
Right.
You know?
That's right.
So,
That's exactly
hey, because not everybody remembers everything.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
When
You
I was
cannot, if
That look right there, Rich. You know I'm right. You know I'm right. You can't stand it when these people can talk over you. Kathy's not the only one. It's that look on your face, buddy.
if you're able to give a blow-by-blow, second-by-second, detailed account, then you're a highly unusual person.
or you're suspect.
Yes, because you created a story that has a lot of details,
Yeah.
and she didn't have a lot of details, and she also didn't remember everything all at once. She'd been
Yeah.
attacked. She'd been taken to the hospital. She'd been put on under anesthesia.
She'd been put on. There they go. There they go with the anesthesia thing again. See, they shouldn't have talked to her. They shouldn't have talked to her. But when it's convenient, they use the anesthesia. But when she's just randomly talking about, sex toys, getting them from the house, yeah, they,
drugs going through her. She had IVs in her. She had all the trauma and her family around her.
And she was still worried about those sex toys.
Had not only all of these other stressors that she had going on beforehand, she had all of this added to it. Those other stressors no longer were on her mind either. She wasn't saying, "Oh, Darren, don't forget to go get your Jaguar this morning."
Oh, Basia, can you go get those sex toys? That was a big stressor for her, wasn't it?
Well, a lot of people claim that this was spousal revenge. Well, you got to remember initially, I mean, Detective Patterson was questioning. Darlie told this. She was questioning her in the hospital. She said she could remember the questioning. She said she was foggy, but she could remember because it was shortly after she got out of.
Oh, so you mean years later she remembered the questioning? Because there have been so many supporters that said she didn't know what she was saying. She was drugged up. But years later, Rich confirms for us that she remembers that questioning. She was cloudy. She was, good job, Rich. Sometimes Rich will make our points for us. So he just killed it for these people that say those detectives came in there and she was groggy and she didn't know what she was saying and she didn't know. She was just too high to be questioned. But Rich said years later she remembers the questions. Thank you, Rich. Thanks, buddy.
Surgery. And she said she could see what he was getting at with his questioning, making sure, they were looking at Darren is what they were looking at. And
thank you, Rich, for 20 minutes in, they thought Darlie did it. Thanks for that, because Darren was the first suspect. He checked out. He cleared out. So thanks again. That's twice that Rich has helped us make our points.
And she made it very clear to them it wasn't Darren. I seen this man, and I know it wasn't my husband. I know he had nothing to do with it. Now, if she was looking for spousal revenge, wouldn't that be a brilliant way of getting it? By stating.
That's a really good point. Except she couldn't say that Darren did it if Darren knows he didn't do it. She'd have to prove it. The spousal revenge filicide that we come up with by Dr. Philip Resnick. I think Darlie's intention was to kill herself and that Darren would walk down there and find it. all three of them dead. But it hurt.
Yeah, it was my husband. My husband did this. He's the man I saw. She has never said,
Not only
still has
she'd
does not
already
say
accomplished
that it was Darren that did it.
Okay, so she's already accomplished
This was over
the one.
I'm talking over each other. He's just ignoring her. Talking over each other. He hates it.
For them.
I know. That's exactly what I'm saying. She'd already accomplished the first deed in hurting him, taking his boys away. Okay? So now she's arrested. Why the heck would she protect him? Why the heck would she, yes, continue to have this? Why would she not turn on him?
Yeah.
Especially with her lawyer who was wanting to make him, you know.
Because they would know that if they wanted to blame Darren, right? If they blamed Darren, Darlie's story wouldn't make any sense. He went out the garage. The screen was slit. Right? That looks like someone from the outside has come in. So she said, no, my husband did it. I'm the one that saw him. They would want to know why that screen was slit. Just think about the things. She couldn't throw Darren under the bus because she'd be throwing herself under the bus too. If she came out right now and said, you know, I've lied all these years and it was my husband, I saw him walking away with the knife, that wouldn't get her out. That would make her complicit. She might get off of death row, but that would only put Darren in. That's all it would do.
If that's even more revenge. It'd be like, oh wow, I didn't even think of that. That's even better. Not only do I take his boys, I'm gonna put him on death row. I'm gonna make.
Well, you got to think about the evidence that we know about. We have that evidence that we know about. It hasn't changed. Just think about her saying, no, it was Darren. I saw Darren doing it. Well, who was the guy you saw running out of the garage?
Make him the most hated man in America. You know, and I'll be the victim of all victims.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so see.
Except for it wouldn't work. Not with the evidence that was in the house. It wouldn't work. They would still find the fiber in the screen. They would still find blood over by the sink. If Darren was the man that you saw killing your kids, why would you be bringing him towels to help save the kids? Why would Darren, I saw him doing it, why would he jump down and immediately try CPR? If Darren wanted to, Darren could have killed her if it was Darren right then and there. Same with this intruder. Think about it. She couldn't blame Darren if she wanted to.
Single mom now. Let her raise this baby alone.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Yeah, but to me it's like, okay, a lot of women that get divorced do spousal revenge without killing the children. They manipulate the kids and get the maximum child support and prevent the dad from being able to see them and bring up stuff from like.
But Darlie wouldn't be able to do that, see? This is what Darren had on his side. He had a mother that worked for Children's Services, CASA. She couldn't get anything from Darren. He was the provider. He was the one that started the business. He was the one that was making the money. CPS wouldn't believe a damn thing she had to say. She knew it.
Drug use and things like that, forcing them to get tested and all of that, or have supervised visits with their children. I mean, there's a lot of ways to hurt a man through his children without having to kill him, making him pay for child support for the next 12 to, well, the baby, the next 18 years.
Well, she was overwhelmed with the kids with help. I feel like everyone expects too much of me. She was overwhelmed with help. So if she was getting child support and all that shit from Darren, that means she would have the children, without any help. Right? She wrote in her diary that you need to help more with these kids. Even though you're running this business that takes up most of your time to provide for us, you need to help more. So why would she want to take the kids away from Darren and get child support? Because there went all your help. All you're getting is money now. You still have the children to tend to.
Well, even longer if they go to college.
Yeah,
they go to college, it's even longer. You have to pay when they're in college too.
So people don't, it's like you can't snap and then just snap back and get.
Why can't you? Why can't you just snap and snap back? And it wasn't just a snap. You got to figure she had all these stressors that were building up. Look at her journal entries. And then look at the one on May 3rd. Look at the ones before that. Then look at the one on May 3rd. Something happened. She went from escalated, loving, kind mood to everything's gone to shit. You do snap back. What is she supposed to do? Be in prison killing kids? There's not very many kids around in prison for her to kill. So how do we know she snapped back? She's been incarcerated. How do we know she snapped back? She hasn't been around any kids. Alone.
And go to where people couldn't detect that you have snapped. If you are going to go so far as to do that, then yes, she would have I defended him at first because I had seen this person and I was just convinced it wasn't Darren from the back. But then when the police came up with this evidence, I had to go, oh my God, they're right. They're right.
That's what they've been doing ever since the last defense. They've been slowly blaming Darren. I found out about things I didn't know about back then. She knew all about the insurance scam with Barry Fife. How could she say she didn't know about that? Your husband comes home and he doesn't have a car now. First question would be, where's your car? Then he goes and buys another one just like it. Now, where'd you get the money to buy that? He paid $10,800 cash for that. So, but she didn't know anything about it. It's just, her husband came home. He didn't have a car. She didn't notice that. She didn't notice that he bought another one. She didn't know any of that. But she expects us to believe, I found out about things I didn't know about back then. And really, if you want to see the Darlie lie, if you want to see what she looks like when she's lying, go to the wrong man. And when they said, you took a lie detector test, didn't you, Darlie? She goes, yes. And what was the result of that? She looks down and she shakes her head. She goes, inconclusive is the word I think they used. Instead of saying it was inconclusive. I think they used the word inconclusive. Not sure. She didn't say, well, I passed it. Inconclusive is the word I think they used. If you want to see Darlie lying, matter of fact, let's find it. The question asked to her was, if you were to leave here today, would you still be with your husband? This is classic Darlie lying. This is classic Darlie acting right here. Listen.
Would not.
Why?
Because I found out things that I didn't know about back then.
Like what?
Well, I found out that Darren was talking to somebody about having the house set up for an
Having the house set up for an insurance. They're trying to get this out.
insurance scam, an insurance hit, whatever it's
See, look at her. This is the lying Darlie. She's lying here.
called.
Verify.
Yes, verify.
Yeah.
And they had talked about having his car stolen. And Barry took the car. And I was mad.
So
She said she didn't know about things back then, but now I was mad. Your husband is an insurance scammer, huh? You were mad because he didn't take that insurance money and buy anything for Darlie. He took that insurance money and bought him another Jaguar. That's why she's mad.
if we're to believe that somebody broke in to burglarize your home that night, and I worked on a lot of cases. I was in the police department 20 years. I saw a lot of burglaries. This is a night burglar. This is a cat burglar. They rarely come in looking for weapons. They have their own weapons, and they take care of business. They just come in here to kill two little innocent children, kill them, and almost leave you for dead. We have to believe that.
Right.
If you didn't do it, then who did? You're trying to implicate your husband in this.
Well, I'm not trying to.
Oh, yes, you are. Because their little insurance scam didn't work. Their little plea, their little see, they were hoping that the trial transcript fiasco would have gave her another trial. So they had to hurry up and get these affidavits from Robbie Key, Charles Sanford, Darren Routier. They had to get them together. They wanted to present that in court. They didn't get a chance to.
I'm sure Mr. St. John knows that. But I just want to make.
I have a question.
Now watch right where Kathy goes with this. You got to remember that Darren worked for Complex.
It's like, okay, a lot of women that get divorced do spousal revenge without killing the children. They manipulate the kids and get the maximum child support and prevent the dad from being able to see them and bring up stuff from like drug use and things like that, forcing them to get tested and all of that, or have supervised visits with their children. I mean, there's a lot of ways to hurt a man through his children without having to kill them, making him pay for child support for the next 12 to, well, the baby, the next 18 years.
Well, even longer if they go to college.
Yeah,
they go to college. It's even longer. You have to pay when they're in college too.
So people don't. It's like you can't snap and then just snap back and get and go to where people couldn't detect that you have snapped. If you are going to go so far as to do that, then yes, she would have a. Well, I defended him at first because I had seen this person and I was just convinced it wasn't Darren from the back. But then when the police came up with this evidence, I had to go, oh my God, they're right.
The evidence wouldn't fit. Why would Darren go out the back garage?
Right. Who would have ever thought my husband? You know, she could have just as easily thrown him under the bus as and gotten away with it if she was all this manipulative. You see, they want to turn on evil Darlie when it.
She wouldn't have got away with it if she would have tried to pin it on Darren, because the evidence doesn't fit Darren doing it. It doesn't. You know, why would he? I saw him killing my kids, and then he's down doing CPR, and then he goes over to get the nurse. Yeah, okay. Make that make sense, people.
It's their scenario, but they turn it off when the opportunity for evil would have even make sense. You know what I mean?
Right. Now, another thing well, it's later in the interview, so I don't want to spoil it. But anyway, we're going to go a little bit further. We'll go one more section to where we stop, and then we'll probably cut it off for today, and we'll do a part 2 on this. This is very good dialogue, by the way. So let's go a little bit further. I don't want the episode being too long because it deters people from wanting to watch it. So I try to keep it at an hour. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. I think that's where she cut her neck. She held the skin, out so she doesn't cut her veins.
Mm-hmm. Now, quickly, all right, I failed to mention this when we were on pause before. I believe this is speculative. Of course, most stuff on this case is on both sides because there's just not enough evidence, and it wasn't properly worked either with the evidence. But I could very easily see how Darlie could have come into the house and seen the sink gone and said, "Oh yeah, I was running towels back and forth." I could very easily see how that could have happened. Very easily could have seen. It's not that she changed her story. It's just like what Annie said.
Of course you could see it because you're on Darlie's side. Remember, she was pretty detailed about everything except for mention and Darren. They did not mention that sink. They also did not mention in their first initial statements that she asked him for a separation that night. Did they suddenly remember that too?
Said she added to it. Very good, very good.
She said she was bringing towels back.
That's how I think she did it. She didn't just take a knife to her. She went and grabbed the skin and was cutting on the skin.
Yeah. Now, how the hell does she know that?
Okay, because
she didn't say she knew that. She said, "This is what I think." There you go with the maximizing again. She said she thinks that Darlie may have pulled her skin out and her hand was right there in the middle. And that's what she thinks she did. She didn't say, "I know she did that."
people have pointed out to her about how the skin, and that's how she. Okay, you can't pinch your skin.
Well, I know that. I'm being
and avoid that and avoid the carotid artery. She would have.
Well, she just talked right over you like you wasn't there.
Cut her fingers lengthwise. You know what I mean? You can't. There wasn't. You don't have enough fat there on her neck for her to have pinched it and then avoided because there still would have been a downward.
Yeah, and I would disagree. Basia says she felt like she pulled the skin out, and cut her neck, but I don't agree with that. But that's what Basia thinks.
Pressure of the and she couldn't have gotten to the carotid sheath. She cut, and if she pinched it, then she went all the way through the pinch, and the lines of Langer would not have lined up. Would have been an uneven cut. The top and the bottom wouldn't have matched up. It would have showed the skin was pinched when it was cut.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at it, they don't match up. If you look at it, it's a possibility, but I doubt it. Just like what Kathy said, there's not enough fat there. But and if you read at the second paragraph at 7 minutes 51 seconds, she says, "That's how I think she did it." Rich goes, "How'd she know that?"
Yeah, that's an extremely speculative comment. and for somebody to say that she pinched the skin to cut it. How the hell are you going to do that? Think about it a minute here, people. Think about it.
Yeah, I agree with Rich on that one. But Basia seems to think that she might have done that. Basia's a little bit older, so her skin is not as tight around her neck as Darlie's might be. So Basia may have experimented. You get a little bit of a waddle when you get old.
And the cut being so precise, I seriously doubt it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but the top and the
Maybe,
bottom
that's
match.
possible.
That made it look so deep.
Yeah. You see, she had to explain why that she was even at the sink, because there was blood all over the sink and the glass was broke on the floor. And she said, well, I was at the sink because I was running towels back and forth to Darren. She said there were wet towels, but none of that blood was diluted. None of it had
Now,
water.
that is absolutely not true. With all due respect to Mr.
None of that blood was diluted. There was no water on the floor. That's true, Rich.
St. John. And I have shown it and proved it on other podcasts that there were wet towels. There were dry towels too, but there were also wet towels too.
You can't prove that from a picture, Rich.
And I would like to see.
There's also a wet wash rag. And let me also say this: wet towels do dry. Wet towels do dry. And
Okay, wet towels do dry. Okay, I'll give him that. But check this out. I've got this air conditioner behind me, and it likes to once in a while it'll leak, and it leaks back into the house on our wood floor, and I put towels down there to catch it because I've tried tilting it and everything else. It's just something that this air conditioner does. Those towels do dry. He's right. But it takes forever if they're saturated wet from under a sink. It takes forever. So they couldn't have dried from the time Darlie wet the sink to the time they got the pictures, Rich.
I don't see any test. What test results show that they did any tests on the entire towel in different sections, and that none of them showed that there was any dilution? I can't find any laboratory testing for any dilution ratio on the blood.
You can't find it, but you can look at the drops of the pooled blood. The low velocity that's just below the sink is nice and bright red in all the pictures. That's where she was supposedly wet the towels at. All right. But that water under the sink where she would pull that blood under the sink where she would take the towel away, and the water would leak right down onto that blood spot, and it did not dilute it.
And
well, it's not even that. There's a lot of stuff you can't find that they claim. Like the blood testing stuff to see if there's blood. Where's the pictures of those tests? I want to see the pictures. It's a closed homicide case, which means those pictures.
Well, Rich, we want the pictures of Basia telling Darlie over and over and over again that they shouldn't get married. We want the pictures of that. We want the tape recorded conversation of that.
Pictures should be available to the public. Where are the pictures? I'm still waiting to see them.
Well, the first test they do on a scene, and I think they would have skipped it here because they have bleeding people on scene, is if it's unknown blood source. Well,
now Kathy's going to give us her expertise on police investigations because she's done all this. She worked at Cuplex right next to Basia. She convinced Darlie to make Basia the maid of honor. She told Darlie to get a lawyer. I mean, Kathy's been there through all this for Darlie. She's such a good friend. She really is. That's why Darlie left her $10,000 in her will and not Basia.
They know the blood source, so they didn't need to do the human to animal test to see if the blood was human. But what they failed to do was to track each individual to try and find where they went, because there's gaps in Damon's movement. We know he was facing a certain direction because of a handprint in blood. We know that was where he was reported
here's the issue.
Gone to sleep.
But here's the issue that I have with that testing. I believe they tested the wrong areas. Of course, we know Darlie was at the sink. What the hell are they testing that area for? They ought to be testing shit in the garage is what they ought to.
They tested that area to see what kind of blood it was, to see if it was mixed up. That's what they tested that area. There was blood there, so they had to test it to find out why it was there. That's why they're testing that area, Rich.
To be testing, kind of like the blood smear that's in the garage on the sign. They didn't even bother to look at that, but they're in the kitchen.
Okay, so how do you know about the blood smear on the sign? Because they told us. What do you mean they didn't look at it? If they were trying to just not test that and keep it hush hush, they wouldn't have fucking told us about it, Rich. Same thing with the blonde hair in the screen. The testing was done and they told us. No, we were wrong. That was Sarah Jones, a police officer.
Spraying that the stuff for the blood test to see if there's traces of blood. Of course, there's traces of blood there. I mean, anybody can clearly. I'm really.
Rich, they wanted to see the extent of it. That's called doing a full investigation. You're like, why are they testing that? And then you said they didn't investigate things right. Well, why are they testing this blood at the sink? Because they were investigating right. Let's say they found some of Darren's blood in there. That's what they were looking for. They were looking for blood that didn't belong there. And they did. They found it.
I'm really trying to watch my tongue here. Anybody can clearly see that there's blood there. So why would you test that area? They claim that there was a cleanup. It doesn't look like there's a cleanup.
There was a cleanup, and that's what they found. It doesn't look like cleanup to you, huh? Not only did she wipe the inside of the sink, she wiped behind the sink faucets, and she wiped off the top of the counters. Yes, she did, Rich. And that's what that testing did for them.
They're saying that they're to clean up in the sink because there's blood in the sink and down. Well, no shit, Sherlock. She's wetting tiles in the sink. Blood's going to go down there, and she's profusely bleeding at the same time. I don't think it takes a genius to figure out there's got to be blood that was diluted that went down the drain in that sink. It's pretty clear.
Right now, Rich is mad at them because they investigated properly. So if they would have just walked by it and didn't test it, they'd have been like, why didn't they test the sink? They had to test it. They wanted to find out whose blood was in there. And they found evidence of a cleanup there. That's why they tested it, Rich.
Anyway, I don't want to let my emotions, passion get in the way, because this stuff gets me worked up, and again, it's nothing, no disrespect to Basia, no disrespect meant to Mr. St. John. They're entitled to their opinions, but it's them I'm getting upset at. Okay, it's not it's the subject matter is what I'm getting upset about. We'll go a little further here.
Water in it.
When apparently the cop knew that Damon was dying, and he goes to her, Tom, hold the son. He's, spin away. And she stood there, and she was the first to go up to Damon.
Okay. and this will be the last point I'm going to make. How does Basia know that? How does Basia know that?
Well, I'll tell you how Basia knows that. She knows that the same way you guys know things. She didn't say she saw that. She's giving her opinion. You know, how do you know what Darlie's thinking? You always tell us what Darlie's thinking. How do you know that?
That she's being told that. She doesn't know that. She wasn't there.
Okay. So you're being told from Kathy that this conversation happened about Basia kept saying that she didn't want them to get married, but you're being told that by Kathy. You didn't see it, did you? You're being told that, but you accept that. You accept what Kathy said. It's hearsay in a court of law.
Any more than I was there, or you were there, Annie. How does she know
She's not.
that Darlie was afraid to go up to Damon? How does she know that?
She doesn't know that. She never said that. She feels that way. Maybe Darlie told her that.
She doesn't. In fact, there's evidence that Darlie's blood is all around Damon's. In fact, it's right there where his.
Yeah, Darlie's blood is all around Damon there at the side of the wall. Low velocity, standing there. Just drops standing there. Because that's where she stabbed him at the second time. That's why her blood is there.
His blood is found, and if her blood is the only blood that's found on these towels, then it could be she placed the towels on the boy's back through his shirt, exactly as she said.
Nobody found a towel on Damon or near Damon. I kind of believe the first responders who have no reason to lie, there was no towel on Damon.
And one of the things why did they test his shirt for blood dilution to see if a wet towel had been placed on it or under it? There's a lack of anybody questioning. I mean, you can't expect a victim to.
She said she put a towel on his back, not under his shirt.
Give you point by point in a hectic, traumatic situation. It takes a special skill to interview them and not lead them, and to get information from them. And it's actually a very gentle questioning technique. And they would have asked her direct questions. Did you at any time go to the sink?
You notice how Kathy knows all this, that what people would ask, what people were thinking. She knows all this because she worked in the police department for so long, and she's done so many interrogations that she could tell us what they would ask. Kathy, whose job wouldn't allow her to go to her good friend who was taking all this advice from her. The job said, nope, you can't go to her funeral. We need you here. Nope, you can't go to the hospital to see her. She told me why. The reason she didn't go to none of that stuff is because work wouldn't let her off. It must be a really good job. She must be irreplaceable in her position if work doesn't want to let her off for that. I'm telling you, if I had any job that told me I couldn't go be with my friend that I've known for years that got stabbed and their 2 kids were killed, if they said, no, we need you here, I would go find another fucking job. But that's probably why Basia got the 10,000 and Tammy got the 10,000 and you didn't get shit. Right? You think on that?
They wouldn't have suggested that she'd ran water or anything else. It would have just triggered, did you go to the sink? Yes. Do you remember handling a vacuum cleaner? Yes. Did you break the glass by accident when you were running back and forth after she has made these. No, the glass was already broken when I got in there. How did you avoid cutting your feet on it? Well, there wasn't a whole lot of broken glass on the floor. It wasn't a whole lot of shards I could see.
Except for Darlie's written statement says that glass was all over the kitchen floor. She wrote that in her own words, Kathy. Detective Kathy. Cagney and Lacey. I believe that she was in a movie with Clint Eastwood where they had to go into Alcatraz. She didn't make it out.
These big pieces, and I just didn't step on those big pieces. I just avoided them. I mean, they didn't ask her direct questions about the evidence or ask her to try to explain anything in the evidence. They constructed a story that they could not prove.
Yeah, they constructed a story that they could not prove. You're right. That's why she's sitting in jail, because they couldn't prove it. Dumbass. My apologies. Kathy irritates me. Whenever you have a subject, you could be talking about fixing the transmission on a Jeep or something. She'd be like, well, I had this friend, and they took the transmission, and they did this, and they zipped it, and it just wasn't the right transmission, you know. Or you could say, I baked a cake. Well, I had this friend that worked in a bakery. You know, Kathy's one of those people that whenever you have a subject, she seems to know more about whatever subject it is than you.
Just as much conjecture as the other alternatives that are possible that we have given. And she was convicted by a jury who has come to that conclusion based on a story that is not evidence.
Based on a story that is not evidence. It is evidence. You're trying to portray her as innocence based on that same story. How come they can't portray her as guilty based on the same story?
There's only a very few pieces of evidence that tell us anything, and they don't tell us what Greg Davis wants us to think they say. Everything else is someone's opinion. And opinions and armpits and a-holes all have one thing in common. They all stink.
That's right.
And why? Because she could have pulled back
Yeah.
if she came near him.
Yeah.
Okay, once again, how does she know that? How does she know Darlie didn't help at all?
She knows because she read the testimony, Rich. She said she could have pulled back if she came near from him. Yet she didn't. She didn't help at all. She did it right there. Yeah. She knows that because she read the testimony, Rich. It's like you know things from the case because you've studied the case.
And let's not forget.
From the testimony of other people in the trial, she doesn't know.
Wow.
She supports everything that the prosecution says.
And you support everything that Darlie says.
Even despite us being able to prove the prosecution witness is wrong. And even when you catch these people with misinformation or fake news, they don't admit it. Waddell is the number one.
She certainly will not let him speak. When he tries to speak, she raises her voice. She's done that several times through this thing.
Yeah, well, Officer Waddell was the one that told Darlie to sit down.
Well, how do you know that? How do you know that? How do you know Officer Waddell told her to sit down? How do you know that, Rich? Because you just pulled this same shit on Basia. How do you know that? Because you read it. It doesn't work. You can't have it both ways, buddy.
So, you know, I mean, she was doing what I mean, I'm sure she was in panic mode. She certainly sounded like it. on the 911 call, and he tells her to sit down.
How do you know that?
Of course, she's not helping at that point, but how does anybody know she wasn't helping prior to that?
Before the police came in? Because Darren was out in the front yard. And then when they walked in, Darlie was standing there. That's how we know.
And nobody knows
prior to his arrival. And didn't the voice analysis say that you could tell that she was moving during the conversation?
The voice analysis said that they could tell that she was going from room to room. Yes.
Going from a room where it echoed more to a room where it didn't echo as much. So she's moving between, and what is the...
See, now they want to use the 911 tape to their advantage. When we use it, they say, oh, it wasn't right. They took the background noise out. They did this. But when they want to use it, it's clear.
Blood tell us, where is she moving around?
Well,
she's moving around on the call.
There was actually a test done by a phone expert that, could tell what was going on, during, something like what happened with the Routier murders. And upon his analysis, I wish I could remember his name. I can't remember it offhand. I have to look at my files, but his testing results showed that Darlie was rapidly going from room to room during the beginning of the 911 call.
But you don't know his name.
So if his analysis...
she's so out of breath, she's moving fast and she's bleeding.
Right. And she's in a panic. Anytime when you're in a panic or scared, your respiration goes up, let alone being injured and scared to death. I mean, later in the 911 call, Darlie's like, I feel like I'm dying. I don't feel good. I feel like I'm dying. And, I hate even listening to that 911.
And in Darren's interview, he was going, she was trying to help me. She didn't even know she was hurt.
Calls, one of the most ghastliest 911 calls, definitely in the top 3 worst I've ever heard, because you could just hear the pandemonium going on with her and stuff with the boys. It's just awful. I've had it on the show a couple times, and I hate going through because you could just tell it's just awful, absolutely insanely awful.
I think somewhere in that report, he said he had an unidentifiable sound, but that
he had unintelligible sounds a lot.
It seemed to be in a room that was more didn't echo as much, and that it was not constant, so he didn't know if it was on the tape itself. And to me, I think that was probably the sink, being the water being turned on and off. And I think at some point she knew she'd be coming back for water and just left the sink running.
You don't hear any water running in that 911 tape, Kathy. Fuck out of here.
She was in that much of a hurry. So I think that that analysis is very important. And what I'm picking up mainly from Basia, and I'm very grateful for the creator of this and the interview, is that a lot of the information she's giving us are actually opinions that she has formed after her.
Yeah. And what are you guys forming?
Testimony. They're not direct witness, and they mirror the prosecution, and they're not things she would know exactly as you pointed out. She supports the prosecution case. That is her right.
Yeah, no. We believe that Darlie's guilty because she saw it. They kept telling, they knew something was going to happen in that house. They knew it. And then something happened in that house. Yeah, she does support what the prosecution said. She supports the evidence. She supports things that she saw before the prosecution even started talking.
As an American, we're only
Yeah, that's right.
questioning her credibility as a witness. And I feel she got a lot of things wrong. I feel like she was also pressured by the police. And if they assured her and told her, Darlie did this, and we need your help, they played upon her emotions to be.
And Basia also believed that too. She said, Darlie lied to me. In the graveside, she said she was lying to me. She tried to get me to lie. There's no pressure by the police when she's at Lou Sterrett and Darlie's at Lou Sterrett, and Basia says that she tried to get Darlie tried to get her to lie. No pressure by the police then.
Be a witness and made suggestions to her. I think she's very highly suggestible as far as the information that they gave her at the time that convinced her to that Darlie was it.
You never met her. Are you saying that they convinced somebody that knew Darlie very well, that knew her intimate secrets, that someone that she trusted to go grab her sex toys? You're saying that the police convinced her that she was guilty? No, I think Darlie convinced Basia she was guilty. She didn't need the police for that. They knew something bad was going to happen in that house before the police even showed up, and they said so. She could see her escalating depression, and she tried to get her to get help before she talked to the police. She also told her, you don't want to spray that silly string. It's not a good look. But I'll wait, because I've got some of Basia's responses to some of this crap. And I'm just going to wait. I'm going to let them go ahead and talk. Because I'm getting it right from Basia. And Basia has no reason to lie. She ain't got nothing to hide. Nothing. She won't gain anything from a lie. She won't lose anything from a lie. She's got no reason to lie whatsoever. None.
And then they would take bits and pieces of her information that she was giving them, like her opinion about her shopping habits and why and I think a lot of that is when they really pointed out to her and kind of ingrained that, well, when they built their house, how did you feel about it? And the story about her promised ownership in the company, and that she was gonna when the company is not doing as well, is not a time to be asking for ownership, because
Yeah, she claims that Basia asked for ownership of the company or something. But how do you know that? She didn't ask for ownership.
that also means you own the debt. So, for her to be claiming it and saying that they would give it to her, I'm sure they would have given it to her if they were about to go under, because she'd have owed the debt with them.
I don't know where Basia ever claimed that they were going to give the business to her. But I know the night after the murders, the morning of the murders, Darren wanted to be sure that Basia went and opened up shop.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway,
it's just a lot of her perspective.
You guys notice that? How I've seen it 5 or 6 times at least in this thing. When Rich starts to talk, she speaks up real loud over him. That's just the desire to be heard. And Rich catches it too. I see his body language. Whenever somebody interrupts him, he fucking hates it.
On things I just don't trust. I really don't trust her perspective, because
Of course you wouldn't. Of course you wouldn't.
I mean,
it was
if she believed.
Well, Darlie didn't trust your perspective, Kathy, because you told her to get a lawyer and she didn't. She didn't trust your perspective.
That Darlie did it, which she claims that she believed Darlie did it, and she testified for the prosecution, I would do the same thing. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't care if it was Bonnie. If I thought Bonnie murdered her 2 sons.
Thank you, Rich. And you see, if you guys really watch Rich and how he operates, he does correct these supporters that come up with stuff. He does it a lot. He does it in a good way. He's correcting Kathy right now.
Because Bonnie is, well, they're grown men now, but she has 2 sons with a previous marriage. And if I thought Bonnie murdered them, if they had been murdered, yeah, I'd be testifying against her. I would, definitely, because it's a horrible thing to do, and it's wrong. So that's not what
they don't realize is right. Is the rest
See, there she did it again, screaming up over him.
of Darlie's family would have been like that too. Cerilda and Lenny, Darlie, can you believe it? Danelle, no, Dana. If any of them suspected that Darlie Lynn had, for under any circumstances, had been responsible, then they
Oh, come on.
would have. They definitely would have been testifying against her.
Sure. Yeah, they definitely would. Now they testify. Darlie, Danelle comes on here lying. That's the shittiest comment that I've seen you make, Kathy. Because Danelle's lying. I know Danelle's lying. Crime Weekly knows Danelle's lying. Unsolved No More knows Danelle's lying. Everybody knows Danelle's lying. Except for you.
As well. I believe that what changed.
Look, she will not let him talk. She keeps right over him.
Right. What changed Barbara's mind? Right. What changed Barbara's mind from, when did Barbara's mind change from supporting Darlie and being a close friend to when did
Her mind changed when Darlie killed her kids.
she change her mind? And I bet you it was under police interrogation is when she changed her mind.
No. You're not listening to her interviews with me. She could see things escalating. That she didn't have any police interrogation at all when she suggested to Darren that Darlie needs help to get help. There was no police. There was no crime. She suggested to them that she get help, and Darren didn't. He said she just got the baby blues. This was before any police talked to her about anything. There was no crime. Basia saw it escalating, and she backed away. The police had nothing to do with that, Kathy.
Well, yeah, she kind of explains that in this interview.
And there goes Rich again. Slightly. He's correcting her nicely.
He's
done it about 4 times in this interview. Corrected her.
She, from what I understand, I don't really want to say because I don't want to be wrong, but let's put it this way. By the time they did the silly string video, when she's right there singing along with all the rest of them.
Yeah, singing along. I got you on this one, Rich. Sure, she was singing Happy Birthday. Sure. And Rich left a comment. Yeah. Well, Basia says she's walking away, but she's right there singing. Yeah. Basia told me that she was walking away. She didn't like the silly string around Drake. She didn't like the silly string at all. And you can see her go to grab Drake and lift him up, and then the film cuts off of her. She said that she was walking away, that Darlie motioned for her to come back. So she came back. And Darlie reminded Basia that she works for her. And that she needed her to be right there. She said, I was walking away. She didn't say I walked away. She wanted to, but Darlie motioned her to come back. And then she said, when she saw Darlie giving that interview, after the silly string party was over, she was standing just a few feet away from her. And she said she saw the fake. She saw the fake, and so did we. She said there was one point during that interview that Darlie glanced over at her because she saw Darlie looking at her. You guys are making no sense on this one, really.
which she said, she was uncomfortable. Darlie wasn't herself. Of course, Darlie wasn't herself. Jesus.
Darlie's never going to be the same, ever.
Yeah, I mean,
Innocent or guilty, something like this is going to change you forever psychologically.
Yeah, that's what it did to Basia. It changed her psychologically. It caused a lot of turmoil in her life, but according to supporters, she was just a mentally drug addicted mental health person, blah, blah, blah.
You know what Darlie told me? You know what Darlie told me about that?
Here we go.
That silly string. It's like, Rich, I could see where some people might think that that was strange and it was weird. I can see that, but it wasn't strange and weird to us because we wanted to give Devin the birthday party he didn't get that we were going to give him. And she goes, but let me tell you this, Rich. And she told me to take this back to the audience. She said, if I had been guilty and if I had done this, I guarantee you I would have never, nor anybody else that was guilty, be able to have done that birthday party with the silly string if.
Yeah, she said that in an interview too. She said that's the last thing a guilty person would do. Said that during an interview. But how would Darlie know what a guilty person would or wouldn't do, Rich? How would she know that, Rich? Let that sink in. Dee 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 dee. What it was because she did it for 2000.
They were guilty. Nobody would be able to do that. And you know what? That didn't ring true at the time, but with me, but then I got to thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? She's right about that. Think about that for a minute. Would you be able to spray silly string and sing happy birthday to two children that you just murdered?
Sure you would, because you murdered them. If you could put a knife through their body, you can sure sing about it later. That was a ploy. They all just, she didn't expect that to bite her in the ass. Could a guilty person be relieved and happy at a silly string party if they were just told a couple hours ago that they found some DNA and they're getting ready to make an arrest? And don't worry, you're not in trouble. About 2 hours before the silly string video, wouldn't she look relieved there?
Not likely. Not likely.
Well,
How do you know what's likely or not likely for a guilty person that just killed 2 kids, Rich?
Make a public spectacle because, unfortunately, death in the way people think about it and have customs about it.
Now Kathy is a grievance counselor. She worked at Coplex. She was a police investigator. She knows about psychology. And now she's a grief counselor. She's a jack of all trades, this one.
And how somber it is. I mean, if you've never spoken to a funeral director and seen what I call the business of death, and there's like a self-imposed etiquette that they have. And it's supposed to be one of reverence and solemnity, slow speaking, very calm, very peaceful, and a party is quite all the opposite. And a celebration, now they
Rich is thinking, will you shut the fuck up?
call them celebrations of life instead of anything. I've seen balloon releases.
He's not listening to her. He's waiting for her to get done. There's a big difference.
And to me, the party that's classic denial. You continue to do things for your deceased that you would have done for them normally. And some people do it in the ways of gifts and philanthropy. They will give gifts in their deceased one's name because that's more appropriate.
There goes Rich covering his mouth again because that's because you don't want to say something.
They'll do foundations, they'll set up all kinds of things, and that's considered socially acceptable.
Look at the shifty eyes and the touching of the nose. He is perturbed by her. Subconsciously.
Because it helps others. But
Right.
if you want to celebrate their life on site, there's the grave. I mean, to a lot of people, it seemed inappropriate. They felt, and I hate to say it, but that was the culture at the time. And so culturally, because they did that, Davis interpreted it and went on television and said she was dancing on their grave. So that was very damning in the media. And his interpretation, right.
You notice how she just talked right over him? Look, he's shutting his eyes. Hand on face. Shut the fuck up, woman. That's what he's thinking.
And his interpretation is what stuck with people because people always want to think the worst, you know? And because it was not considered as culturally acceptable to have a celebration of life. And a celebration of life is also for those people that are not as stressed out or adhere to the cultural, oh my God, I can't believe you said that at a funeral, or, I mean, or laughed at a funeral, or wore a bright color to a funeral, or you're not supposed to laugh even if something funny happens. It's
He's trying to get in there again. He took a breath to talk, and she won't shut up.
Just it's a cultural thing, and it's not a guilt or innocence about murder. I mean, a lot of people objected to the songs, but a lot of the things that happened surrounding your funeral and all of that have been misrepresented. Because prior to the birthday party, there is a film of a memorial service, and Darlie is sitting on the ground crying.
Darlie is not sitting on the ground crying. She's sitting on the ground while everyone else has their head bowed to pray. Darlie's not praying. She's just sitting on the ground playing with the baby.
Great. The bug tape that Darlie T took to the Supreme Court, it shows her actually, her voice and others, and telling Darlie to get it together because she's going to scare the little kid.
I've never heard this tape of somebody telling Darlie to get it together because of the kids. I've never saw it, never heard it. I've seen just about everything in this case.
If you're about to have a celebration of life and a birthday celebration and donate all the gifts to a children's charity, then you want to put on a bright face.
There goes Richie just a second. He's trying to speak again.
And you also want to not scare
He's trying to speak and she won't shut up. She gets louder.
them.
And Darlie Key has also said that, you know, she had mentioned to Darlie Lynn, look, we gotta try not to cry and get real upset around these children. It wouldn't be good for them.
And Kathy's claiming there's a video of someone telling Darlie that she needs to calm down and get it together because the kid's here, blah, blah, blah. I've never seen that, Kathy.
You know, we got to kind of, you know, be careful with all that. And I've heard Darlie Key say that, and Darlie Lynn told me she said that. So, yeah, I mean, I understand that. Like I said, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I know I've even told Danelle that, you know, it wouldn't be my style, but everybody does grieve differently. And you think for 1 minute that Darren and Darlie didn't grieve, you know, from the date of the murders up to the silly string. I think anybody to say they weren't grieving were sorely mistaken. Let me tell you something. I do agree that Darlie wasn't acting herself at the silly string interview that she had with Darren and the news reporter. I now understand it's been almost 30 years since. I've had, and I say this all the time, but I'm trying to drill a point here. I've had many 4-hour conversations with Darlie, and, you know, visiting her in prison. And no, Darlie did not sound or act the way that she did on the silly string interview. I agree. She did.
That's why Basia said, I saw the fake. Thanks, Rich, for confirming it.
Act that. Let me also say that Darlie was taking Xanax. Darlie was taking well, and it's basically it would be hydrocodone today, and she was also taking Darvocet, which they've actually taken off the market because it's a highly addictive pain medication. So is hydrocodone, but she's taking that and Xanax, and she does look a little bit loopy, if you will.
What was it prescribed to her?
And just, you know,
Because Darlie made this statement. Everybody kept giving me pills, right? And she was taking these pills. So if somebody came up and gave her a pill that wasn't prescribed to her and she took it, that's illegal. And that's what Basia was charged with. While you had the heroin addict with drug charges herself, you know, the one that had been in mental hospitals twice, talking about Basia. You know, you've got Darlie saying that all these people were giving me pills. She didn't say I wasn't telling them no. I was telling them no. She took them. That's just as illegal as the two charges that Basia got hemmed up with solely.
You know, kind of talking strange and stuff, because she doesn't really talk like that. And I know that from visiting her. She's a lot more down to earth, but look at what was going on. Plus, take a look at the medication she was taking. But nobody wants to weigh in on that.
Oh, I'll weigh in on that. You say there's nothing wrong with them celebrating. They were celebrating life. It was all out of love. And she was on drugs. You have to throw in the thing about her being on drugs. It's because you know it's inappropriate. And you have to make an excuse for it.
She's trying to be positive and upbeat, and calm these children and neighbors and friends. Hey, the police, we have every confidence in them. We know they're going to do a great job and they're going to catch these people. In other words, she was trying to bring peace to her community. She was trying to help the other.
You notice how they were doing a really good job? Before they accused Darlie, they're doing a great job. And now that they're accused Darlie, they're doing a shitty job. We got the best of the best. The police are going above and beyond. They're using high-tech stuff that I'd never even thought of, is what Darren said, until they started accusing Darlie. Then it was shoddy police work.
Other kids, she was scared out of her mind, but she was trying to show them courage in the face of adversity. She was trying to show them some of the best. I
want to tell the viewers.
And she has a great deal of.
See, there she goes again. That's like the 6th time she did that. He's trying to talk, and she just raises her voice over him. That's fucking rude.
Face, and she was putting it all on all her eggs in a basket of her voice were with Jesus.
I want to tell people that what Darlie told me, and others have said, and I know Darren has said this, maybe Darlie Key, I'm not 100% on that. After the murders, Darlie couldn't even go to the restroom by herself. You know, she'd have to have Darren come. She couldn't be alone. She's scared to death.
So why didn't she ask for police protection around the Silly String area? Because she was so scared. You know, why didn't she ask for police protection for that?
She was scared to death. And like I said, she couldn't even use the restroom on her own. She would have to have Darren come in. And
so when she got the house back and Mercedes went in there with her, was she scared to death when she said it's going to cost me a fortune to clean up all this shit? That's what Mercedes said. Her friend said that. And it went in a book. When I tried to talk to Mercedes Adams about it, she denied even saying it and blocked me immediately.
whatnot. She's using the restroom because she's scared out of her mind. So, I mean,
I wonder how scared she was, out of her mind scared, when Nelda Watts saw Darlie and Darren smiling and laughing and playing with those stuff on the memorial, throwing them back and forth to each other. But, you know, Nelda's lying. Nelda has a long history of mental illness. She's on drugs. She's jealous. They had some kind of falling out. Nelda wears glasses, so she couldn't see that was Dana, not Darlie. Was she scared then, Rich? Out of her mind?
something to think about. Something to think about.
It is something to think about, ain't it, buddy?
I mean, if most killers, if they think they got away with something, yeah, they're going to be careful about the things they say and do afterwards, but they're certainly going to go to the bathrooms by themselves, most likely, or be in a room by themselves. So, something I want to put out there. But listen, we're way over on time. We're going to stop there for today.
Then it got edited out. And I
You
know
arrested somebody for spitting.
I know the reason why it's edited out, but I'm not going to say. I will say this. Rich was supposed to meet me there in Rowlett. We talked on the phone for 4 hours just before this happened, just before I went to Rowlett. And, you know, I had asked Basia if she wanted to meet Rich, you know, she could take her back and forth, you know, to go to the grave on a regular basis. And I told her, I said, he thinks Darlie's innocent, though. And at first she said, yeah. Then she said, no. Then she said, yeah, again. I said, he's a nice guy. I said, he won't pick at you. He'll ask you questions, but he won't pick at you. And so it's up in the air whether or not she wants to meet him or not. So I don't know. I'm gonna see what her responses are if she's got left me any yet.
Someone's face before.
Okay, so I'll read Basia's response. I asked her, I said, good morning, here's a couple questions for you. It says, I'm debating supporters. How did Darren steal things from Coplex? Was it before he started his own company? Well, 2, did you tell Darlie and Darren they shouldn't be getting married? They're saying you kept telling them they shouldn't get married. Here's her response. Well, good morning, Pops. She calls me Pops. How are you? I hope you are doing good. Yes, Darren was stealing from Coplex before he started his own company. And he already was like doing side jobs and having me write this picture, and we both still work for Coplex. So that's that. And oh my goodness, what if I said they shouldn't get married? Why did Darlie want me to be her maid of honor? So that's that. Oh my goodness, what in the hell I did talking, lying. Oh my God, bless him. I have to let it go. Okay, sweetie? I hope I answered your questions. Have a wonderful day.